2022 has been a big improvement for Conan Exiles. After the Siptar content drought, it seemed Funcom was gearing up to improve on the consistency that Conan had lacked for so long. With less than a month left of this year, what does Conan need to do to make sure that 2023 is even better? Let's find out together. The biggest one has to be console improvements. Us PC players get off pretty easy with a lot of the issues that Conan faces, but you only have to check out the many comments on videos or on the Conan forums to discover that console often has tons of issues, especially it seems on PlayStation. Whilst Update 3.0's launch wasn't too bad for us PC folk, console got a really rough deal with crashes, instability, and massive bugs sweeping throughout the game. Even now, the game is still apparently struggling on console, especially, again, PlayStation. Many of these complaints are met with the ever unhelpful "lol buy a PC" from other players, but that doesn't really do anything for those facing the issues. Regardless of the platform you play on, the game should work as best as possible at any given time. Speaking purely on the data, console players likely vastly outnumber PC players just by virtue of there being two consoles to play on, and as much as I do think Funcom have improved over the last year, console definitely needs some love. It would be great to see Funcom reinvest in their console community with improvements targeted directly at those systems. A PS5 upgrade for Conan is a start, but extra quality assurance and bug testing for the console builds, be that in-house or outsourced, can really help to quash those game-ruining bugs that consoles suffered when 3.0 dropped. If you were around before the Isle of Siptar dropped, it seems that the communication from the devs back then was just very rare. Since then, the dev team have definitely seemed to improve their communication, and especially since Update 3.0. It's obviously still early days, but with the new 3-month content schedule for Conan, players do know roughly when they can expect to hear news from the devs about the next update. They've also been considerably more receptive to bug reports and severe issues on social media than they have been in the past, which is good. That being said, it would be great to keep this trend of improved communication going. To me, it seems the dev team do know that they were lacking this department in the past, and they're making active steps to rectify it now, which is a good sign. As I mentioned, the team actively addresses news and updates on their social media, and the open Q&A sessions in the dev streams are a great time to hear about future changes or issues within the game. Personally, I think it could be a good idea to have a mid-chapter stream where the devs solely cover questions from the chat and the forums, alongside explaining any issues they're working on. In addition, more solid estimates on release dates and when we can expect certain changes to drop would be good too, though I'm sure we all know that not everything goes exactly to plan in the world of game development. Overall, Funcom have already improved their communication with the community, but a little extra could go a long way in keeping development transparent and clear to all users. I'll preface this point by saying that I like how Conan's combat feels, even in my admittedly limited time in survival, but it doesn't always feel natural. That's a point I've seen many people echo, and I think if the combat is overhauled correctly, it would be great. There are many avenues to go down with this one, and I won't pretend that I know which is the best. I think the spirit of the combat is perfect for Conan, and the changes to attributes and weapon scaling have helped with balancing things out. That being said, there are still definitely some kinks in the system. Again, there are a multitude of ways to approach this, and I can't really claim to know what's best for the combat system. I know that I'd personally prefer a more Dark Souls-esque approach to the combat, but other people will have other opinions. There are way more of you out there that are more familiar with the intricacies of combat than I am, both PvE and PvP, so feel free to sound off in the comments on how you think this could be improved. Most seasoned players will agree that Conan desperately needs some new endgame content. Not everyone is interested in PvP, and whilst the dev team have stated they wish to improve the landscape of PvP itself, which would be good, more endgame PvE content is something that a lot of people would enjoy. Once you become more comfortable with the game, endgame content can get fairly stale pretty quickly. From my perspective, if we're talking about the absolute endgame, there's no reason to not go all out with new content. New level 60 dungeons requiring not only good gear, but a good understanding of the game and the combat system would be a big improvement. Dennis, the lead designer, has already stated that they know people love dungeons and it's something they are looking towards introducing again in the future. Furthermore, if we're really pushing the boat out, why not just take a page out of the MMO book? Epic boss fights, tough skill challenges, and even raid bosses designed for multi-man clans would be great to see in Conan, and would add some much needed spice into the endgame. Conan has a great foundation, but the endgame, again, can end up feeling stale once you've conquered some of the tougher challenges. Improving this aspect of the game would be a great way to encourage people to keep playing and to gain a real sense of accomplishment from what should be some of the hardest achievements in the game. Okay, I'll admit I've kind of just nabbed this one straight from Ark, Rust, etc. It's no secret that many of the official servers, especially PvP, are just kind of oppressive to play in. Well-established clans dominate the map, and things end up getting stale once you run out of things to do. To alleviate that, why not some new server types? Small clan servers that wipe regularly, solo PvEC servers that focus on periods of intense server-wide PvP. I mean, the world is their oyster. With a bit of development time, even stuff like faction war servers could be something that Funcom could officially integrate. I know I'd love to play a faction war server. There are loads of ways to tackle the idea of servers that break the usual convention of how Conan is played. And while it's not something that everyone would be interested, it would be a welcome addition to the game for those that are tired of the usual rigmarole of official servers. The possibilities are vast with what could actually be done on these servers, and I think it would be a great addition to Conan in this coming year. Of course, we can't not mention the Bazaar and the Battle Pass. Controversial as they are necessary for the game to continue on in development. So far, I think I'm probably not alone in thinking the Battle Pass actually isn't too bad. It's far from perfect, but I feel like I got my $10 worth of value, especially considering that it gives currency to pay for the next one for free. There are a few minor criticisms. There was a little bit too much fluff for my liking, but this point focuses more on the Bazaar. The old cultural DLCs were a great deal, but clearly they simply weren't a sustainable way of funding Conan forever. This is something I've seen happen across a multitude of games. The one that jumps to mind is Killing Floor 2, which used to have regular free DLC, and now it's sort of split between half free and half paid, simply because the game has pretty much run its life cycle in terms of the massive amount of purchases it's going to get, and therefore it needs the money to continue development. By nature of having an in-game store, things will on average cost more than they would in a DLC pack. That's just an unfortunate fact of how it is. That being said, the Bazaar does need some improvements. Even as a content creator who would likely end up using the Bazaar items in a massive number of videos in the future, I just can't justify the price of some of the items, especially like the Black Magic starter set. To give them credit, Funcom have already acknowledged this, and they've said they're taking a data-driven approach to making adjustments and giving them time to play out. Of course, this is way better than just not acknowledging the issues at all. However, I do think a close eye needs to be kept on the Bazaar to balance the aspects of profitability and sustainability for the game, whilst also keeping items attractive and reasonable in the realms of a purchase for a customer. I know there are plenty of people out there that love the look of the new items and want to help Conan succeed, but the prices are a little steep, especially for some of the bigger ticket items. With the great work the art team have done, the new items are probably some of the most well-designed pieces in the entire game, but the pricing needs to be watched carefully and adjusted to make sure players can enjoy those items and support the game without feeling like they're being ripped off. This is something that Funcom have been doing a little more of lately on the Conan Twitter, and though it is only a small thing, I think it is important for the community. There are loads of great content creators for Conan, but there are even more amazing builders, decorators, screenshotters and character designers that simply create things for their own enjoyment without thinking about YouTube videos or Twitch streams. A great example I only found out about somewhat recently is the Conan Outcasts, people that play the Japanese version of the game. I've only seen a few of their builds on Twitter, but they are some of the most insane builders I've ever seen, but you don't really get to see much of them. Having a little more focus on showcasing the community creations and generally just showing off what the community has done would be a great way to improve the feeling of the community in Conan, as sometimes, at least it's my opinion, it does feel that the player base is somewhat disparate and disconnected from one another. Something like this isn't a game changer, it's not going to revolutionise the way we play Conan, but I think it's a fun way to give people ideas and just generally show off what people have done. And finally, I am once again asking for official mod integration. It's something that I and many others have wanted for a while, and for good reason. It's something other games have had great success with. The most obvious example is of course Ark, where they've integrated modded maps into the base game for free. Now obviously there's probably a lot of legal red tape and behind the scenes dealings that go into those processes, stuff that we don't really know much about, so it's not as simple as just saying put it in the game. Funcom have already attempted a slower method of developing features to replicate what popular mods can do, but with all the amazing mods and their insane talent on their teams, official integration is a perfect way to showcase how great their work is and give players something new and exciting, especially over on console. Honestly, if I had to put together a list myself, I would be spoiled for choice. Pippi, Savage Wilds, Fashionist, Shani Stuff, Devious Desires, there are just too many great options. I don't know if Funcom have ever stated publicly about the possibility of integrating mods, but I know they are most likely at least somewhat aware of how much it would benefit the game. Hopefully there are already things going on behind the scenes with this, though, as I have stated before, it's important to make sure the base game is solid and works well before fancy stuff like integrating mods. There's no point adopting new maps and additions if critical improvements are overlooked, especially to ensure stability and functionality on consoles. And there we have it, a list of the things that I think are important for Conan to succeed in the coming year. Thanks for watching. 2023 is going to be an exciting time. We're seeing the culmination of the Age of Sorcery, the beginning of the next stage, and hopefully lots of new and exciting additions and important improvements to the game. What do you think Conan really needs to succeed? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, all the links to my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Host Havoc affiliate page, NordVPN discount and NordPass discount are available in the description below. However, of course, you can simply just leave a like, a comment or subscribe. Any of those are very greatly appreciated. Patrons get a bunch of nice benefits, including sneak peeks of videos, your name in every video, custom made wallpapers in 1080p and 4K resolutions, full-size build blueprints, Discord roles and more. That being said, a massive thanks to all of our esteemed coffee cultists on screen now for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.